The service side of the economy may be actually starting to slow down by the data we've seen this morning. It's Wednesday, February the 5th, and this is Markets with Megan. This morning, we got the ISM Services Index, and this measures the activity in the service sector of our economy. And we highlight this report because this is where the majority of the money is spent by Americans, is in the service sector, not necessarily goods. So this can also be an inflation as well. If you look at the inflation readings within this report, this can be an inflation indicator because since Americans spend the most of their money on services, that's where we tend to see that sticky inflation in the service side of the component. So let's dig into the details because it did disappoint a bit today. This is a situation where the equities are up, bond yields are down because this looks like there are some softening in the data which might lead the Fed to be able to cut interest rates this year. Again, it's one reading, and if we can say one thing in this podcast, it's 1 month doesn't make a trend, but we do want to highlight it because it has impacts on the market on a regular basis. So within the report, we saw that the ISM, the broad index actually declined. It's still in expansion territory, but it was only the second decline we've seen in the last 7 months. And when you look at new orders, we saw the components of this. We saw new orders. New orders, prices paid, and then business activity. These are the big components that drag the index lower. Now, prices paid, though, that can be looked at as a positive for the Fed. So prices paid, they did decline pretty sharply for the month of January. But remember, that's in the back of a big jump we saw in December. So it's not surprising you'll see some moderation in that. It still is at 60.4, above the 20-year average leading up to the pandemic, which was 58.5. So the prices paid component of this, while it's finally looks like it might be going downward, it still is well above the historical average. So again, good news, not great news. The markets are celebrating this is great news today. We think the Fed will be watching this. Again, it's one report by Friday when we get the labor market report. This could be old news at that time. So the next event we'll have, as we mentioned, will be Friday. We'll come with the employment report for the month of January. And as always, if you like this podcast, please hit subscribe, hit that alarm bell, share it with friends, family, or colleagues. And if you want a history of our podcast, you can go to marketswithmegan.fm. Thank you.